everyone. My name is Michelle Benicurve. I'm on my professional pages. I'm known as Exceptional Self Advocate, and also an advocate for people with disabilities through my experiences as a paraprofessional and a new incoming role as I become a registered behavior technician. So excited to say that because I grew up in New Jersey before my family and I moved to Florida. So it's been a while since I've done these guest interviews, but yeah, so I'm very excited to come back and do these guest interviews again. And I have a special guest with me on here, Timothy R. How you doing, Timothy?
I'm doing good, and you?
Doing well. I'm doing well. So would you like to share a little brief story about your journey as an advocate?
I grew up with many challenges through my childhood and adolescent years, and I did many things to overcome my challenges. And I became an advocate because, when I was in high school, I struggled to fit in socially by regular ed students, and I wanted to hang out with them and be their friend, but they would not give me the chance because I was autistic. And I was very depressed, and I didn't like how it felt to be excluded. And I wanted to educate the regular ed students how to communicate with people with autism and for them to have simple knowledge about what autism and disabilities, how it affects people, for them to learn about disabilities the same way we learn about other subjects like math, science, or language arts.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with the idea of the importance of inclusion, which actually leads me to my next question for you is that what is inclusion or even disability inclusion to you? And I know with Timothy, with you, that you are known as Tips for Inclusion. What got you into that, and what does inclusion mean to you?
Inclusion means that when people who don't have disabilities, when they take the time to know people with disabilities, like when people without disabilities give them a chance to join their conversations, have their phone number, or to hang out at beaches or restaurants. And inclusion, for the most part, can also mean employing them to jobs and paying them the same amount of money that everyone else does.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's just definitely in the world today that we are getting a lot better with it, but there's definitely more work that still needs to continue in terms of giving people opportunities. Like just to share a little bit of my perspective, what happened, as I said that I'm becoming part-time, I'm becoming a registered behavior technician. And that's because of this ABA company, Full Spectrum, is helping individuals on the spectrum gaining employment, and especially helping I know from just to let you know a little bit about me that I am in college pursuing my bachelor's in ABA. So I so through this company they found out about me pursuing my college degree in that field, so they wanted to help. So this is comes an example here that, and as you mentioned, Timothy, that a lot more places still need to work on with inclusion, from schools to the workforce, anything like that. It's just, there's still a lot more work, and these kind of examples here, I hope that a lot more places will continue to include people with disabilities. So that was a great point there. So
Yes.
can you tell me more about with Tips for Inclusion? I also know that you're a keynote speaker, which is awesome.
I spoke for many conferences in school districts. I spoke to conferences to professionals, caregivers to people with disabilities, or teachers in different school districts about having me speak. And I got the chance to speak to my local school districts in Millstone and Allentown, New Jersey. And I spoke to children prior to the pandemic, and they had a lot of good questions about autism and disabilities, like what it was like for me growing up, or how we can include someone with a disability. And I got a pamphlet that I published. This is my first publication that I did in November 2018. Good influence people with disabilities. And this is the inside, which teaches children 10 steps how to include people with disabilities. And on here, it has the introduction and all and my outlets to my website and social media. And this is my book right here called Timmy's Story, a story about autism and friendship. This book teaches children about this boy named Timmy. The difference is because he has autism, like his STEMs and sensory sensitivities and his special interests, and teaches them how to include them too. This is the first page of the book. I did all the pictures.
Wow, that is awesome. That is so cool. What actually, let me ask you this now that you mentioned with your book. Like, what inspired you to create your first book? Because that is awesome to like be able to share from your. It does tell a lot from your perspective too, but just like what inspired you to create your first book?
Because we need to educate children about autism and disabilities. And I had a lot of spare time when the pandemic hit us hard, and my mom suggested that a book would be like a good way to make money and get my work popularized too. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Not only you're helping yourself, you're helping others. That is such a great way to, with getting the world to like, especially with children, because that's my main experiences. Like my full-time job is being a paraprofessional, and I mainly work with elementary school children, and just for children, especially nowadays today versus from like uh back in like your childhood, my childhood, I feel like that a lot more kids are like just become are like so aware, and this is like the good time to be able to teach this stuff like this, like to teach what inclusion's about, because then that way it becomes, as they grow up they'll understand how what other people feel and like what they go through. So that is such a great way right there to show that through your book and through your keynotes speeches and stuff. And I know you create content on YouTube as well.
yes,
So can you tell me?
I have YouTube videos for it too, and I made videos that are teachers that people can buy too, like about inclusion of people with how to include people with disabilities. Like on YouTube, you can watch them for free, but you have to pay for teachers to pay teachers. And I have other resources on teachers pay teachers, not just videos. I have posters and worksheets on there too. My YouTube channel name is Tips for Inclusion, the number 4.
Very good. Very cool. So just for everybody to know, make sure that you follow Timothy Tips for Inclusion on social media and YouTube. So that is awesome to hear that. Before we wrap up this great interview, I wanted to ask, I asked this to all of my guests, but for being an advocate yourself, is there any advice that you want to give to other autistics?
Don't give up on your dreams.
Exactly. It's so important to just,
Keep reaching for the stars.
yeah. Is there anything else you want to give, or is that your main advice?
Uh, We teach people with disabilities how to communicate with others. They spend hours going to speech therapy or social skills sessions being taught how to communicate with others, and that helps them like improve their like what they talk about with other people. But when they mask their disabilities, like they're still socially excluded by the regular ed population, and instead of just having to teach the disabled people how to communicate with others, schools need to start teaching the regular ed students how to communicate with them.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Like just to be able to there's like I know personally myself that I've been through a social skills program myself, but just to be able to expand that in the general ed classrooms is so important because that way they understand how to communicate with people with disabilities. So that is a very good point there. And
And
great advice too, because like people shouldn't give up on their dreams of what they want to go for. Use your interests. That's the thing that a common theme that comes across is using what your special gifts are, your talents, your skills and everything and just go for what you want to go for because it is possible. It is possible. I'm working my way towards that with working in the ABA field. I know with Timothy, you are doing what you're doing as to
okay,
being a keynote speaker and advocate. So that is awesome to hear.
and and I want to be more than just an advocate. I want to be the Martin Luther King to like end ableism against people with disabilities.
That is awesome. I like that. I like that a lot. That is so cool. Very cool.
Like the term ableism is the ism against people with disabilities, like in which people favor like able-bodied or like non-disabled people over people with disabilities.
Right. Absolutely. Like just the idea in general, like to, and it ties back with the idea of inclusion that like where it's not 100% about the disability, it's more about the person.
Yeah.
About just including just the person themselves beyond their disability. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
that's like the idea that I'm seeing here from what you're talking about. And it's so important and more important than ever. So, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
What I hope to happen is for schools to actually like put in the curriculum to teach regular ed students how to communicate with people with disabilities, like, and for students to do work about learning about disabilities and its symptoms itself too, like teach them in health classes.
That is a good idea. That really is a good idea. And like health classes too, like just to, with the idea of just of communication. That's like the big main theme that I'm getting out of this is just the idea of just communication in general to talk to people regardless of living with this a disability or not, just to keep on communicating because it makes the world better, you know? So, and just learning to understand each other. So that's a really good point there again. And Timothy, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing about yourself and just what a great topic we talked about with inclusion and everything. So I thank you about that.
Thank you for interviewing me.
Of course. Of course. And just for everybody to know, make sure that you follow Timothy on his social media as Tips for Inclusion. Remember the number four, not the FOUR or FOR. And also make sure that you follow me as Exceptional Shell. I'm on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. I'm on all that. Plus on my YouTube channel that I have all these guest interviews. So make sure that you follow me on there. And finally, on my blog website, The World of Autism. So thank you and have a great day.